Hello students, welcome to class 7 science NCERT chapter number 3, and this is titled as Fibers to Fabric. In other publications it's written as animal fiber. This video has been prepared on the basis of NCERT. What is the learning objective of this chapter? First, to recall what you have learnt in class 6 about what is fiber, what are the types of fiber, what are the sources of fiber. Second, how fibers are converted to yarns. Third, why do we wear clothes? What are the factors that determine the types of clothes we wear? Fourth, to advance your knowledge related to what are the various steps in which fiber is converted to fabric. Next important thing what you have to learn in this chapter is to know which are the animals, which are the parts of the plant are the animals which give this fiber for making different kinds of fabrics. Let's see what is given for us in this class, my dear students. First of all, let us know that natural fibers are the plant cellulose or animal protein. You all recall the knowledge that there are two types of fiber. One is natural fiber, other is artificial fiber, where natural fibers are obtained either from plants or animals, whereas artificial fibers are generally synthesized from the petroleum products, except for few like rayon, which is obtained from the wood pulp. Here, natural fibers are either the plant cellulose. Cellulose is a type of carbohydrate, very complex in nature, which is present in the green plants, whereas the fibers which are obtained from animals is actually the protein fiber, which makes up various parts of the body. My dear students, if we talk about silk, that is obtained from the cocoon of silkworm, and the wool comes from hair of sheep, goat, camel or yak. What type of clothes we wear depends upon what type of climate we live in. Clothes actually protect us against heat, cold, dirt, insects and rain, also to cover our bodies. But this is not enough. This was only in the old ages. Now we have also options of designing different types of clothes with the different types of choices. We open to trends. We often design the clothes. We also show fashions. So clothes are not only to cover our bodies but also to show trends around us, right? What is the process by which this fiber is converted to fabric? It was taught in class 6, that is fiber is turned into yarn, which is turned into fabric. But how is it done? Let's find out. First fiber that we have to learn in this chapter is wool. Here you need to understand that if you touch your own skin, you feel some soft or fine hairs on your skin. If you touch your head, you get some coarser hair on your head. Actually, every animal, especially mammals, have hairs on their body. This is called fleece. So animals bear hairs, that is fleece, on their body to protect them from the outer environment up to some extent. Generally, hairs trap a lot of air. This air is actually poor conductor of heat. So whichever animal has got hair on the skin, generally it protects them from either cold or from heat. Whenever we wear sweaters, then in the sweater also the woolen fibers trap a lot of air. This air doesn't allow the body heat to escape, whereas it also doesn't allow outer cold to get in. That's how our sweater makes us feel warm. So the fleece of the sheep consists of two types of fiber. That is, one is the coarse beard hair and another is the fine and soft hair. This fine and soft under hair is what provides us fiber to make wool. Some breeds of sheep bear only fine underhair which are given birth by specially chosen parents. How it is done? There are certain people who often keep eye on the traits and characteristics of certain animals, and then they analyze their genetic studies, and then they try to choose only such kind of parents of the sheep which can breed with the another sheep, and then they give a desired characteristics coming into the offsprings. By this kind of breeding, the new offspring which comes, it will bear only soft under hair or fine fibers. This process is called selective breeding. Selective breeding is a process of selecting parents for obtaining desired characteristics in offsprings. As a result of this, only soft fiber will be obtained from the lambs coming afterwards. That's how commercially it will be profitable for the shepherd or the farmers. Hope this introduction is clear to all of you. Next, let us know what are the animals who give us wool. Baba black sheep, have you any wool? Yes sir, 3 bags full. So this rhyme is still in our memory, and that's how we connect the chapter with the sheep. Here you can see the first important animal that is the source of fiber wool is the sheep. Others, Angora goat. Angora and Angora goat. Both are the goats here of the two different climatic zone. You can see yak in the Tibet and Ladakh, llama, alpaca, camel. These three are from the camel families. Here the texture of wool depends upon the kind of animals which are yielding this wool. Alright. My dear students, generally what happens, this fiber is first of all taken or collected by certain process, and then it travels a long way to convert into the fabric. So that journey from hair to wool starts from rearing. What is rearing? Actually, rearing is taking care of animals. How it is done, that you can understand here. My dear students, this rearing is very important part of the step of getting fibers to wool. Generally, you have to understand, if you travel to the hills in Jammu and Kashmir, Himachal Pradesh, Uttaranchal, Arunachal Pradesh and Sikkim, or the plains of Haryana, Punjab, Rajasthan and Gujarat, you can see shepherds taking their herds of sheep for grazing. Sheep are herbivores and prefer grass and leaves. Apart from grazing sheep, rearers also feed them on a mixture of pulses, corn, jowar, or oil cakes material left after taking out oil from the seeds and minerals. Actually, in winter, sheep are kept indoors and fed on leaves, grain and dry fodder. But my dear students, these are the basic important informations that you have to keep in mind for rearing sheep, right? Sometimes what happens, some sheep are having the very thick coat of hair on their body, which actually can yield good quality wool in large quantities. So these good kind of sheep can be bred by the process of selective breeding, which was discussed earlier in the previous part of this chapter. Here you can understand that the names of some breeds of sheep reared in our country for producing wool can be shown later. Here one thing you have to understand, that once the reared sheep have developed a thick growth of hair, then hair is shaved off, right? So the first process, that was called rearing, and now this after rearing, when the hair is grown up to a good extent, then this hair is shaved off. So that shaving off is called shearing. Shearing means just removing up after outer hair along with little layer of the skin, which is not actually painful for the sheep, right? It is as similar to as your father shaves beards, or you go for haircut or hair trimming, but your head or skin doesn't get hurt. So it is very simple. Earlier it was done by hands and razors. Nowadays it is being done with the help of machines also. Later on, what happens after this whole the fiber is separated from the body, then it is allowed to be cleaned because it has a lot of oily substances, waxes, right, dirts, right. So all these things have to be removed. This has to be removed by certain process, and that process is called scoring. My dear students, you can observe in this the tank. In this tank, what happens, the sheared skin with the hair is thoroughly washed in tank to remove grease, dirt and dust. So this is called scoring. Nowadays scoring is also done by machine. Here after scoring you will also see that there are some hairs sorting is done, right. So the hairy skin is sent to the factory where hair of different textures are separated or sorted. So that process is called sorting. Sorting means the shorter ones with the short also, longer ones with the long, and the fine hairs with the fine hairs. So all the different texture of the woolen fiber are actually sorted in the different categories. That process is called sorting. Later on, what happens, some wool fibers have got little finest hair like things rising up from their surface. That also happens in the old sweaters in what you wear. So that is called burr. So generally what happens, to make a very finest quality of wool, this burr is removed. So it's very simple process, removing of burr. After all these processes, what happens, since the wool is obtained from either brown, black or non-green kind of animals, so these are the only limited colors. Then what happens, to make it attractive and preferable by many others, these wools are now dipped into some of the colors. So that color adding is called dyeing. So here sometimes what happens, small fluffy fibers once removing burrs are sent to the dyed in the various colors, as the natural fleece of sheep and goat is only black, brown or white. So apart from this there are no other color options. So for this purpose this whole wool is given certain color. That process is called dyeing, right. Like hair dye, you give dye to the wools also. Now slowly and gradually what happens, this whole process is done, then the whole fiber is now straightened. After making it straight, it is spun with the similar kinds of fiber repeatedly. Now you will see that a very thin strandal fiber has converted into a rope like or thread like structure. That thread like structure is called yarn, right. So that is done by the process of spinning, converting of fiber into yarn. It can be done by certain device also, or certain handmade tools also, right. So that's how the straightening and rolling of the thing is done. When the yarn is made, then the yarn is now rolled into the different rolls, right, and of the very different designs of rolls are prepared so that it is ready for being sold in the market. Once it is purchased by, or it is sent to the, now it can also be sent to the mills, where in the mills they have to be either woven or to be knitted. If the single set of yarns are arranged, then it can be knitted, or if the double set of yarns are arranged, then it can be woven. You have often seen your mom or your any family member you having two sticks in their hand and a roll of wool rolling around with them, and slowly and gradually what happens, they make a very beautiful sweater for you, right. So this whole system is actually based on nothing but a step-by-step approach from the hair which is obtained from the animals to the wool which is obtained after spinning of the woolen fiber, right. So once again let us see the flowchart. Once it is first rearing, then shearing, then scoring, that means sorting, then removing burr, then dyeing and spinning, and finally it is woven or knitted. Weaving or knitting can be done either by hand also, or in the mill loom also. It can be hand loom or it can be power loom, right. Let's see what we have more to this. Some of the Indian breeds of sheep which are very popular, like Lohi, which give a good quality of wool and come from Rajasthan, Punjab. Rampur Bushire, brown fleece, they give brown fleece. Uttar Pradesh, Himachal Pradesh. Nali, carpet wool. Rajasthan, Haryana, Punjab. Bakharwal for woolen shawls, Jammu and Kashmir. Marwadi, coarse wool. Handweaving, the Gujarat. Patanwadi for hosiery, and they come from Gujarat. Generally, my dear students, you need to keep eye on some facts. Alpaca, llama and camel hair yarns are spun from the members of camel family only. Kashmiri is extremely soft, resilient and easy to dye fiber. They are combed once a year. Angora is obtained from the Angora rabbit and it is very extremely soft, fluffy and warm fiber. Mohair, spun from the fleece of Angora goat, is extremely lightweight. Please be noted here that mohair is obtained from Angora goat, but Angora is obtained from Angora rabbit. Right? Yak wool is very popular in Tibet and Ladakh. Once again, you can see how the shearing of this fiber is being done. Shearing of wool is done, how the scoring of wool is done, how the rolling of yarn is done, and how the scoring is done by machine. Scoring by man's hands, scoring by machines. This is how we see a brief story of hair to the wool. Hope the concept is clear. Now, my dear students, coming to the next natural fiber coming from animals, that is silk. Production of silk at the commercial level is called sericulture. Here, this silk is another animal fiber obtained from the saliva of a silk moth. Generally, students, ringing of silk to obtain silk is called sericulture. There is a very interesting story about discovery of silk that in the garden of the princess of China at the mulberry there was a mulberry plant and the leaves were getting eaten every now and then. Then the task was given to the queen how to check out why these leaves are being eaten. Then they saw that there is one moth which eats up whole leaf, and that leaf, once what happens, it fell, it also, when the queen was sitting under the tree, that moth fell down in the cup of coffee, right? And slowly and gradually what happened, when this moth was taken out, there was a cocoon actually, that when slowly or delicately when it was unrolled, then it kept on opening into the very fine fibers, very fine fiber. It was kept a very dark secret from all the whole country. Slowly and gradually what happened, they started producing it more and more, and they became quite rich in that. So when the people from China started traveling out, they opened up to the in front of the world, and then the trade of silk began, and the routes they followed from China to Europe, that is still known as silk route, right? Here, my dear students, you need to understand that life cycle of silk moth has a close connection with production of silk. There is a variety of silk moths which look very different from one another, and the silk yarn, the yield is different in texture. So based on that texture only, the silk can be Tassar silk, that can be mooga silk, that can be kosa silk, etc. Mulberry silk is very popular in India, and India has a good rank, number 2 or 3 in production of silk in the world. It all are spun by the different types of moths. Let us refer to the life cycle of silkworm. Alright, here 2 pictures are given for you. One is from your book, private publication, and another is from the NCERT. In both the cases, one similarity is that both male and female silk moth have to fertilize and lay some eggs, right? So getting egg is laid on the mulberry plant leaf. When this caterpillar eats mulberry leaves and grows, the tiny black caterpillar hatches out of its egg, and then it eats the leaves, right, and grows bigger and bigger. This is how the larva grows. Now the larva, as a butterfly, is called caterpillar. This caterpillar spins a cocoon of silk threads around itself. Then after 25 to 30 days, they stop eating the leaves and they go to somewhere to go inside the cocoon, and the caterpillar changes it into pupa. They cover their body with the help of salivary secretion, that when comes in exposure to the air becomes hard actually. So this is actually a protective cover around the pupa. Then the pupa is now it's taken and boiled in that cocoon is taken and boiled in the water. People unwind the silk thread from the cocoons to weave into the silkworm. Actually, in the normal life cycle, this cocoon has to be, or pupa has to develop into adult, and then again be able to lay eggs. But in the sericulture, there is another bypass. Is this time when the cocoon is taken up and boiled. Okay, this pupa chain has to be unwound and boiled in the boiling water, and then slowly this cocoon is unrolled, and it can open, keep on opening. It can go from 800 meter to 1500 meter also. Make sure that the thread is not turned and twisted. It has to be kept straight to get good fiber of silk, right? So it can give more than 200 to 800 or to 1500 meters length from one cocoon, but they are so fine that they can be accommodated in one small pupa around the covering around the pupa. More than thousands of cocoons are killed to get some kg of silk. That's how the fine silk is. This is the mulberry tree, and this is the mulberry leaf. This is the larva, and this is the silk worm's egg, right students? I think this is the this is the showpiece of, or it's shown here, the cocoon, how it looks like. You all are very familiar with this kind of structure, cocoon with developing moth. When you open the cocoon, you will see moth inside. Generally, it's a very cruel activity, but nowadays there is a different kind of silk in which killing of this cocoon is not required, because earlier there was it came into the this news was on fire, from the animal rights people. So the alternatives have been found, and nowadays only the non-violent silk is in the market. Generally, discovery of silk is, as I said in the beginning, that exact time of discovery of silk is perhaps unknown. According to an old Chinese legend, the Empress Xilong, she was asked by the emperor how to find out the causes of the damaged leaves of mulberry trees growing in their garden. The empress found white worms eating up mulberry leaves. She also noticed that they were spinning shiny cocoons around them. Accidentally, a cocoon dropped into her cup of tea and tangle of delicate threads separated from the cocoon. Silk industry began in China and was kept in a closely guarded secret for hundreds of years. Later on, traders and travelers introduced silk to other countries. The route they traveled is still called the Silk Route. What about in India? In India, it is very well significantly done by women involved in the various kinds of industries related to silk production. These are rearing of silkworms, reeling of silk from cocoons, and processing of the raw silk into fabrics. By their enterprise, they contribute to the nation's economy. China leads the world in silk production, but India also ranks among the leading silk producing countries. My dear students, this is the story of discovery of silk, and this whole content we talked about wool and silk. But you know what, that any industry where the manpower is working is actually facing some hazards. That hazards are called occupational hazards. So what you should know here is that wool industry is an important means of livelihood for many people in our country, but sorter's job is risky, as sometimes they get infected by the bacterium called anthrax, which causes a fatal blood disease called sorter's disease. Such risks faced by the workers in any country or industry are called occupational hazards. Some examples of disease: sorter's disease, anthrax, respiratory disease, asthma, bronchial ailments, scabies, and other skin infections. Right? So these are the occupational hazards caused by this kind of industries to the laborers. Now the question arises, how will you differentiate the clothes are obtained from the different fibers? Let us see. If it is artificial cloth, when you burn it, it melts. But when it is the normal cloth, the silk or wool, it will burn like paper does. Smell: if you burn, then the smell will, no strong odor will come from the silk, and burning hair like kind of a smell will come from the wool, but artificial cloth will characteristic odor like a plastic smells. After burning, what residue will be left out? Dull black kind of residue when you burn silk or wool, but hollow bead which crushes easily to powder, right? But other thing, artificial cloth, when you make, they make hard bead like when you burn plastic, and what you get after that. Any other feature when you get in the case of silk and wool, they are the self-extinguishing. They can just burn and afterwards they will extinguish themselves. But when you burn any nylon cloth or artificial cloth, the drops of melted nylon may fall to the ground just like plastic does, right students? So we have learned so many things in this, that silk comes from the silkworms and wool is obtained from the sheep, goat and the yak. Hence, silk and wool are animal fibers. So, hairs of camel, llama, and alpaca are also processed into yielding wool. In India, mostly sheep are reared for getting wool. Sheep hair is sheared off from the body, scored, sorted, dried, dyed, spun, and woven to yield wool. Silkworms are caterpillars of silk moth. During their life cycle, the worms spin cocoons of silk fibers. Silk fibers are made up of a protein, and silk fibers from cocoons are separated out and reeled into silk threads. Weavers weave silk threads into silk cloth. So this is what we have learned in this chapter, my dear students. If you have any doubt, please put up your doubts in the comment box below. In order to get notification about the new and the video, please do subscribe to the channel and you will get notification whenever I upload the new video. So thank you for reading. Do read, review and recommend. See, subscribe, share. Thanks and have a nice day ahead.